This is J. Timothy Quirk, and you are listening to Nutmeg Chatter. I'm here today with Professor Amy Nawrocki to discuss her new work, Reconnaissance. Professor Nawrocki, could you tell us a little bit about your new book? What inspired this particular book?
I've always been drawn to other artists. From my earliest recollections of reading, thinking back to when I first got the bug for wanting to write, but also just wanting to immerse myself entirely into a literary world. And I also wanted to think about what inspires me. And I'm always drawn to things, both visual, mental, and so the poems just were collected under the heading of inspiration, as well as investigation. And I looked to writers, I looked to artists, I looked to paintings, I looked to music, and poems that I had written on those themes or touching on those subjects, and pulled it together under a collection.
Did you do any traveling to do this research, this kind of visceral research?
I think life is kind of research for me. Whenever I go places, I usually have a notebook, a journal, and I record, and then I process. And a number of the poems actually come from my travels. A couple poems I wrote after a trip to Scotland. Last summer, I took a trip to France, and a couple poems came out of that experience, particularly visiting the Normandy beaches, very close to Memorial Day. So it was the 70th anniversary of the landing, the D-Day landings. And of course that had an impact on me. And so it's not just when travel has an impact like that, but just being in places where life is all around you. I seek out art when I'm traveling. I seek out natural formations, and those usually end up in my work. I visited Monet's gardens, for example, and Monet had always been
Wonderful.
Someone who had captured me from an early age. And so that was both epic for my life as, wandering through art, and just almost holy in the way that experience, and it did end up as a poem.
Now, you teach at the prestigious University of Bridgeport. You teach creative writing, and you teach poetry. My question for you is, are they born poets, or is poetry taught? Is it a combination of both? Are the people in your class born poets, or are they writers and you help craft them into poets?
I think that poets are crafted, whether that's crafted because they live, they breathe, they see. I think that's how I crafted my poetic tendencies. I think it would be a sad day if we thought that poets were born only. And I think that would be discouraging, because I'm not sure that I was born a poet. I came to poetry because I had an investigative nature, and I think most of us do. So I think that poets are not that different from other people. And, who are we? Are we born into who we are? Probably. But I think poetry and poets are crafted. And I think as a teacher, that's one of my jobs, not just to craft the talents, but to craft the curiosity. So I try to do that.
For the poets in the audience who are listening now, what words of inspiration or wisdom would you share with them to help them get to the next level of wherever they're at, especially you as a published poet?
I'm going to steal the back of my book, the line that finishes the little blurb at the end: open the paint box and learn how to stare. So I think investigating, look around you, pay attention, and know or try to find out how words can help you name what you see.
Once again, I want to thank Professor Amy Nawrocki for visiting us here in Torrington to discuss her new work, Reconnaissance. Thank you for listening to Nutmeg Chatter. I am J. Timothy Quirk.